There was a reason I was waiting. There's a reason I was waiting. I'm accommodating our friendly reporter. Just so you know, I am feeling lonely up here. I miss you all. I miss you, Bob. Okay. I'd like to call the September Board of Legislators meeting to order. If you would all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of reflection.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. Roll call, please.
Legislator Calarco? Cantwell? Nabawanik? Reed? Drake? Peck? Maxson? McBride? Johnson? Ferris? Grant? Monticelli? Doldo? Gray?
Here.
14 present.
Okay, before we open up privilege of the floor, I'll just read a proclamation of the Jefferson County Board of Legislators. Whereas International Overdose Awareness is recognized around the world as a day to acknowledge individual loss and family grief for people who suffered an overdose. And whereas Jefferson County is currently experiencing an unprecedented prescription drug and heroin crisis. Whereas Overdose Awareness Day recognizes overdoses from all drugs, providing a platform to speak and educate about addiction and the epidemic. Whereas Overdose Awareness and Remembrance Day provides awareness and information about the disease of addiction and resources about where to get help for someone who is struggling with addiction. Whereas this allows a place of healing and remembrance for those who have lost loved ones without the guilt or shame. Whereas Overdose Awareness and Remembrance Day will publicly celebrate those who live in recovery and challenge the stigma associated with drug use and the addiction that prevents many users from entering treatment. And whereas sending a strong message to current and former drug users that lives matter and are valued. Now, therefore, I, Scott A. Gray, Chairman of Jefferson County Board of Legislators, State of New York, do hereby proclaim September 11th, 2020 as Overdose Awareness and Remembrance Day. And we'll forward that proclamation on to the appropriate agencies. So, privilege of the floor. Alex, you have anything you want to say? Okay. All righty. Reading of the minutes of the last session. Is there anybody that requests that? Hearing none. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, then I'll stand as presented. Before we continue, just on that note, just reminds me, housekeeping, if you have a communal microphone, if that is appropriate nowadays, but you have some people have a communal microphone, you folks over there, would you please slide it one way or the other if one of you want to talk and the microphone is not in front of you? Corey, you're in charge because you got Bobby. So, yes, Bobby, that's you. So, no, you have to use the mic because the stenographers have to listen. No, they have to listen after the fact. After the fact. The recording online and to make sure that the minutes are accurate. So, and we do have diligent stenographers that pay attention after the fact. So, with that said, presentations, petitions, notices, and communications.
There are none to report this evening.
Reports of standing committees.
We have a report of the Finance and Rules Committee reporting favorably on resolutions 171, 172, 174, 176, 177, 178, and 179.
Reports of county officers and others.
We have a report from the county treasurer as cash and investments on hand, report of the county administrator and budget transfers for the prior month, and finally, we have a report of the county auditor for erroneous assessments.
Local laws, resolutions, and motions, number 166.
Authorizing agreement with the New York State Environmental Protection and Spill Compensation Fund regarding several environmental remediation sites in Jefferson County.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 167.
Authorizing the sale of certain tax foreclosure property in the town of Champion.
Discussion. Mr. Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate this coming before the county board tonight and passing through the Finance and Rules Committee. This will hopefully be the start of a new chapter for the volunteer fire department in the hamlet of Champion. After years of controversy and issues, after a court proceeding earlier this year, the town finally has the ability to get the equipment into the hands of other volunteer organizations, but also once the town receives the building, per this resolution, they will be able to transform it back into a fully functional fire department once again, which is what the intention is of the town and the desire of the townspeople there. So it's a great step moving forward and will be a well-utilized asset by the community once again. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Further discussion on 167? None? None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 168.
Authorizing renewal of agreement with Davis Vision for vision and eye care benefit services management.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 169.
Amending the 2020 county budget in relation to the workers' compensation fund.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 170.
Approval of a line of credit for the Thousand Islands Bridge Authority.
Okay. Discussion? Just a point of report. Yes. Mr. Mack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my understanding from reading this, the border is effectively closed. That revenue is causing TIBA a shortfall. They're borrowing a line of credit temporarily. Do we expect at any point aid from the federal government or the Canadian government for the Canadian half of this to make up this shortfall in traffic crossing and revenue? Because I know that we have other bridges in the area where their authorities have trouble making these credit payments are big. I mean, $6.5 million is a hefty payment. So I just wonder if we heard anything from a congresswoman or from the senators or our colleagues in Canada about it. Are they going to be considered in any aid packages?
That's a good point. We'll raise it.
For the moment, the answer is no. There is nothing on the immediate horizon. It doesn't mean there can't be something, but the answer is no. But let me make it clear with everybody, as it stands today with the Bridge Authority, they're okay. This is more of a cautionary step in the event there is a need because the border stays closed longer than anybody really anticipates. What they don't want to do is draw down their entire fund balance to recover that. So that's why they would look for a letter of credit. But in looking for the letter of credit, which has increased a bit, again, because of the situation at the border, it doesn't mean on day one they're going for $6.5 million. They might go for $1 million, they might go for $500,000, and then further down the road a little bit more. This goes for a period of 5 years. Nobody anticipates anything like that for 5 years, but nonetheless, it's more precautionary than anything else. Well, yeah.
They've also finished up a couple critical projects that were pretty costly that
Over the castle.
That's absolutely correct.
The Easy Pass is a big one, so, but
Wastewater treatment plant.
wastewater treatment plant, yeah.
Kind of saves them liquidating any assets.
Right.
So it's just cost of, for the, just as a point of order, just out of abundance of caution, I will abstain from this because the bank that they're likely to do business with, I also get paid by the bank, so I, just as a, prevent any conflict. So, further discussion? None? Roll call.
Legislator Drake? Doldo? Ferris?
Yes.
Peck? Calarco? Cantwell? Reed? Grant? Nebewanik? McBride? Maxon? Johnson? Monticelli? And Gray.
Abstain. 171.
Authorize an agreement in relation to the fiscal year 2020 Emergency Management Performance Grant and amending the 2020 county budget in relation thereto.
Discussion? None? Roll call.
Legislator Doldo? Reed? Maxon? Monticelli? Johnson? Ferris? Nebewanik? Drake? Grant? Peck? McBride? Calarco? Cantwell? Gray.
Yes.
Motion carries.
172.
Amending the 2020 county budget to recognize insurance recovery and allocating same in the Fire and Emergency Management Department budget.
Discussion? None? Roll call.
Legislator Grant? McBride? Ferris? Peck? Drake? Calarco? Monticelli? Johnson? Doldo? Reed? Cantwell? Nebewanik? Maxon? Gray.
Yes.
Motion carries.
173.
Authorizing agreements with Jefferson County Public Safety agencies for lending of subscriber radio units compatible with Jefferson County's upgraded emergency management radio system.
Discussion? Yes. Mr. Maxon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I received a call tonight from one of the emergency firms, organizations in my area. I was not aware that we had turned the system on. They tell me that the system has been on for a month with their pagers and that they don't work. Full stop. They don't work. That might not be germane to this, but I just wanted to, at least, if not now, then at the end of the meeting. They don't work in the south half of the county. Full stop.
Mr. Dolmo.
Thank you. Yeah, the towers were turned on just for high band paging. They are tweaking a lot of the stuff, but we haven't heard any complaints from anybody from the south. So they need to let us know how long this has been going on. You don't know, the whole month. I haven't had any phone calls. Joe hasn't said anything. We had a problem up in Carthage, and they're better. They're still working on stuff, but Motorola's been here quite a bit working on things, and like I said, we haven't heard a word out of anybody in the south. So which department? Is it one department? Is it?
I only heard it tonight, so we can discuss it.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Maxon.
the only thing I'm aware of along the lines what Anthony's referencing was that Joe got called to an emergency just south of the border, Oswego County, and there was a glitch with a receptivity there in Oswego County. So it wasn't necessarily our system. It may have been the two merging that was a problem that's being worked on. But if there's other areas, that's will have to be.
Yeah, that's just the radio side of it, which nobody has except Joe. So, you know, the rolling over from one county to another is what they're working on. But this strictly is just high band paging that's been turned on that anybody has access to right now.
Further discussion? Yes, Mr. Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Subscriber radio units, is this meaning the portables, or is this the base stations, or is this the whole package
It's
that was done earlier?
the portables. And, well, I think it's the whole package, actually. Yeah, the whole package. Yep.
Okay. Maybe as good a time as any. I had expressed an interest with Legislator Doldo, at least a question, that with the coming back online of the Champion facility, that facility was kind of left out, it would seem, from our initial purchases and initial dealings with the radio system because things were in limbo at that point. But I do at least wish to raise that issue that if this facility is coming online, is there extra equipment to be able to help assist the town with bringing that particular facility up and running?
Well, you talking about the trucks, or you're talking about people?
No,
Because the people are coming out of another department, West Carthage.
Right, but I believe the intention is to at least, you're going to have volunteers responding to there that might be living within the hamlet area, though. So you would need to have pagers. You're essentially having a secondary unit, just like you have in town of Watertown. You have a couple of different, town of Watertown has 2 separate firehouses. So essentially you're almost creating a second firehouse within the fire district in Champion. So that's why I'm bringing up the question of whether there's additional extra units or if there's still ability to provide another portable or base station, depending on what the need is of the department as they're getting this back operating.
Defer to Mr. Doldo.
Thanks. I've had some discussion with John a couple weeks ago, and this has to be brought to the committee to discuss first, and then we'll get back to you. There's no definite answer right now. I know what it was, but we have to discuss it further. So we will get back to you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay. All in favor, aye. There we go. Just going to get restarted here. Opposed? Carried. 174.
Authorize the implementation and funding in the first instance 100% of a federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible costs of a transportation federal aid project, appropriating funds therefore, and amending the 2020 county budget and capital plan. This is for County Route 189 over Runley Creek.
Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator McBride? Maxon? Grant? Reed? Nebewanik? Cantwell? Johnson? Peck? Calarco? Monticelli? Doldo? Drake? Ferris? Gray?
Yes.
Motion carries.
175.
Authorizing intergovernmental agreement with the town of Cape Vincent for transfer of ownership of culvert E019 and amending the county highway map in relation thereto.
Discussion. None? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried. 176.
Amending the 2020 county budget relative to Office for Aging.
Discussion. All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried. 177.
Authorizing agreement with Duflo Spray Chemical Incorporated relative to aerial spraying to mitigate eastern equine encephalitis and amending the 2020 county budget in relation thereto.
Discussion? Yes, Mr. Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does Public Health anticipate that we're going to need to do a spray next year also that we'll have to budget for?
That's a great question, and with this agreement, it extends into next year, so we will budget accordingly, but it's covered. So hopefully not, but just in case, we're all set.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did we find out the results of the second mosquito trapping? I was very excited to find out if they trapped any more mosquitoes.
Yeah, we'll have to get back to that. I don't know.
I hope the answer is no.
Yeah. They've been working on gym inspections as of late. It's kind of gone in a separate direction.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with my mic. But, okay, further discussion? None? All in favor? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried. 178.
Amending the 2020 county budget in relation to public health department accounts.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried. 179.
Accepting funding for new epidemiology and lab capacity COVID-19 local health department allocation funding, establishing a typist position within the public health, and amending 2020 county budget in relation thereto.
Discussion. Done? Roll call.
Legislator Doldo? Johnson? Cantwell? McBride? Reed? Grant? Peck? Monticelli? Drake? Ferris? Maxton? Nebewanik? Calarco? Gray.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Includes local laws, resolutions, and motions. I'll just, two things. So we have, first of all, I'll do this. This is very short. So this is the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. So this is what Executive Order 203 looks like. So we have to undertake that. We will be beginning that process very shortly here. And I've had some discussions. It's written that it falls under me. I will be considered the convener. The sheriff will be considered the presenter. We have a list of community stakeholders that have to be involved, and then we have a list of also SERVs, right? And those are people that we'll bring in periodically. It does require some, obviously, staff time, both on behalf of our sheriff's department, certainly our administration, and our public defender, and our district attorney's office, and so it's going to be, it has to be, so a plan has to be written, and it is basically sourcing feedback from the public. It's a chance for us to demonstrate to the public your police department and hopefully instill goodwill between the community and our law enforcement in our community. And it is designed to get feedback. The process is designed in a very open and transparent process to get feedback throughout the community. So we do anticipate that we'll be moving around through the community and having some sessions where people can hear and can present. And every agency in the county has to do this that has a police force. So that would be including us, it would be including the city of Watertown, it would be including Antwerp and Carthage, West Carthage, everybody that's got a police force. So just so you know, I've reached out to mayors. Some of the mayors there's discussion going around right now that we cannot possibly, let me put it this way, it's very difficult and it would be very time consuming to disperse staff to participate in 16 of these proceedings. So we are going to try to have some sort of countywide focus to this and bring it forward, but each community has to pass their own plan eventually. So there are components of it that we can do collaboratively with the other municipalities, and then there's other components of it that they'll have to break out and do on their own. So it's a process, it's work in progress. We're scheduling a planning meeting in the next day or two. Mr. Clean over there, tidying up his work spot. In the next day or two, we've got a planning meeting that is going to start taking place. So you may hear and you may read, you may see, you may hear from us more on this process. It is wonderful reading, isn't it, Sarah? Very good reading. And it's going to be, and we have to, the goal is to have it to you in a fashion sometime the first quarter of next year, so we can pass it and move it on. Funding is tied to this, or I should say the lack of there, if this isn't completed. So it is, it's a process that we will, not to say that we're going into it, kicking and screaming, but we do have other things to do, but in any event, we will entertain this whole process and see if we can come out with a community that better understands their police force and a police force that hopefully they understand their community, but you know, there's greater understanding from both perspectives. And obviously everybody's aware of what they're seeing going around in the national level. You know, it is an opportunity for us, frankly, to build a relationship between the community and our police force so that these events aren't bubbling out there, so to speak. You know, so we don't need the eruption to begin with, and we don't want the eruption, but we don't even want it simmering out there. So if this is a way to interact, that's what we'll do. So if you have any questions, go to Bob. No. So, and secondly, I will entertain a motion for executive session for labor negotiations. Mr. Monticelli, second Mr. Johnson. All in favor? Opposed? We're in executive session. Ms. Bell, if you'll remain in the room.